Hello, everyone. This is Roxanne from Witch Mafia Podcast, and I'm here with my witch keeper,
Oh boy.
Peggy Oker. So, some of you know her from my shop, and we finally are going to talk
This could be a little dangerous.
what it's like for myself being a witch, and what it's like for Peggy, I guess, in this witch world and being a witch keeper.
There's a
So-
lot of people that just want to know, who is this Roxanne Sparrow that you speak of? When did you decide to be a witch? How were you a witch? So she's going to clear that all up today.
I'm going to clear some of that air, and we're going to have more of the Witch and the Witch Keeper podcast on Wednesday nights. So we will definitely be more proactive getting that time out of all our different scheduled podcasts. So let's begin. I will tell you the story of how I met Peg long ago. So I had a shop in Situate Village that was called Heart of a Gypsy, and Peg came in one time, and my business partner at the time, Debbie, you came in to sell your beautiful clothes that you make, and that you'll see those
Right.
here at
Right.
Bewitched. And Debbie had said, "Well, I got to talk to Roxanne," or what did she say? Because I wasn't there. Tell me the
Yeah,
story.
she goes, I like this, and she picked out all kinds of stuff, and then she said, but I got to talk to Roxanne. So it's like, okay, who's this Roxanne? So we went to the store. Roxanne looked at everything, and she ended up purchasing like 75% of it for herself because she has a little bit of a clothes problem.
Well, I think that's at that point I was like, "Ooh, who are these women?" And I love what they do. So that started our relationship. Really,
Yeah, it did.
was
Yes, it did.
through clothes. Which
Through
isn't
clothes.
that hysterical? Of course, it's through clothes, right? Why wouldn't it be?
Right.
And I didn't even put that together till we just
I
spoke
know
about
it.
this.
I know it.
So
I know.
crazy.
It's funny.
So it started with clothes and it continues
It
with
continues
clothes.
with clothes.
So then I opened my store in Situate called Bewitch of Situate, and you continued to follow the witch
Mhm.
and sell me more clothes, which usually when she brought in, I think I usually bought 25% of them.
Right. Yeah,
So,
she did.
and then I was very blessed to be able to purchase a house in Situate Village. They all come to 618 West Greenville, this beautiful house that was built in 1780, which actually, when I did research, is very, very distant cousins of mine, ancestors. So
Hopkins,
the
right?
Hopkins, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you came here, and I think it turned into a little bit more than just selling me clothes. How did that go at my last trip? I was like moving stuff into this new location like a month
No,
before our
you
festival.
no, I happened to come into the store and you're like, oh, I bought a new place and we're moving out. This is a week before the Situate Art Festival, where there's 10 million people every day walking past your brand new location. So I simply said, do you need a hand? Do you need help? And that was the end of that. And I'm here, still helping.
Still open.
Still helping.
But she has become more than just this talented, brilliant designer that I happened to meet at my very first shop. She has become like a mother, a sister, best friend, and professionally known as the Witch Keeper.
The Witch Keeper.
The Witch Keeper.
The Witch
So,
Keeper.
Peg, tell us a little bit about some of your background. I know a lot of people come in here and they ask you a lot of questions, but you don't tell people exactly some of your background knowledge on trees and gardening and all these amazing things that you have, so much knowledge in. Way
Well,
more than I do. Which
At
is
a
nice.
very younger age, like the 18 to probably 30 or maybe late 20s, I was always working in a hospital setting, whether it was St. Joseph's Hospital on Broad Street, when it was a hospital run by the nuns and the priests, or Fatima Hospital. And then I left that. I had my son, and I became a migrant worker for a year, raking blueberries up in Maine, which was fun. And I got really thin. It was awesome. And then I was just in the green industry. It was green industry, selling, learning, planting, everything. I also had a job at Roger Williams Park Zoo for 15 years, manager of horticulture. I started off there as a seasonal, ended up as a manager of horticulture, which was a great job, a lot of hard work, but where do you get to see an African elephant every day? It was awesome, seeing all the animals and everything. But I left that to take care of Mom. kept sewing, kept doing things, and I ended up here again. So
which is
that's it. That's,
beautiful.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
it.
that.
That's it.
So, what do you feel like is the day? How do you feel like your day is at Bewitched? What do you think a day consists of here? Because you're the one that's kind of keeping things moving and grooving. When I'm in readings or Reiki or
I
helping
love it
someone.
because you never know what's going to walk through the door. I just love it. You know, there's a lot of people that come in and they just really need help. Young people, older people, and you can see it in their face. You know, you ask them, "Hi, do you have an appointment?" "No, we were just coming to browse." "That's good." And I show them all around, and you can see it in their face. There's something wrong with them. You know, there's something really bothering them. So I kind of like make them tea, and then we start talking, and then you come out of a reading. It's like, oh, you need to spend a couple of minutes with this person. Then we get really behind schedule, but that's okay because people understand. Because you are not a
On
30-minute
schedule.
reading person. Ding dong, your reading's over. She goes into like 45 minutes to sometimes an hour. Spirit moves. So it's a great job. It is. I don't even call it a job. I think it's like an experience.
It is an experience.
It's an experience.
We do say this,
It's an experience. It
some
really
days
is.
are,
And people are very grateful. They're very grateful when they come to see you. And when people meet you, I mean, you know, you look at you and you're a beautiful woman and you can speak very eloquently. But let me tell you.
well, sometimes.
Wait a minute. Wait. Shh. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's why she needs a keeper.
I do need a keeper. And I didn't realize I needed a keeper until I just happened to. You were like Nanny McPhee. She just came right out of the sky with a little
I need
umbrella.
one of those. I need one. No, I
You
need
need-
one. I need one of those nice bags.
You do.
The carpet bags.
Oh my God, Mama Sue has one. Mama Sue, if you're watching.
We need the carpet bag.
Mama Sue is another witch keeper. She's a witch mama keeper. She keeps all the mamas in line.
Oh, she's the crystal keeper too.
She is.
She's
We're gonna
the
have to
crystal
have her on.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have her on because
Oh,
she's the other.
absolutely.
She's the other dynamic of us. So
Yeah.
Kinda, we love you, Mama Sue.
My best memory of Sue and you were, I'm going to say it, we were on Block Island, and it was
Yes.
full moon, and we actually went skinny dipping in the full moon. It was great, the three of
We
us.
did.
It was, we were actually swimming in the moon rays.
in the moon phase.
And Sue was like, she's one of those persons, I don't want to get my hair wet, I only go up to my knees. By the time we were done with her, she was swimming in the moonbeams,
It was amazing.
totally wet, and she just loved it.
I
And
loved
it was
that.
such
It
a
was
great,
so-
it was great.
It was
great.
a beautiful experience.
It was great. So, all right, enough about me. Tell me a little something about yourself. No, here's another thing too. We have a lot of people that come in the store, you know, and they identify as a witch, but then they look at, what do I do next? Now that I identify as a witch, what do I do next? I said, well, maybe you need to talk to Roxanne about this a little bit. How did you know that you were a witch?
Well, it's one of those mysterious questions, you know. I never knew I was a witch until I was told. And I was told at a very young age. You know, my grandmother, I was always a little different than everyone else in my family. And I said, you know, to my grandmother, I said, you know, I just feel different. And I don't remember exactly what I said to her in that conversation, but I knew it had something to do with some experiences I also was having as a child. And I just remember she just said, "You're a witch." And I was like, okay. At least I felt like, in a weird way, I didn't even understand what that meant. I just felt comfortable in it. So, I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 years old when she told me this. So, of course, naturally, I go looking for books because I was always a bookworm and still am. What's a witch? So she used to take these travels into Massachusetts because our family is from Gloucester, Massachusetts, and the Salem area. So she would always get me books. She got me books at Laurie Cabot's store and in many other stores that she'd travel into Maine and different parts of New England, and always bring me a book on a witch who wrote a book about being a witch. So I had I could identify with maybe someone else besides just my grandmother saying it. Because I feel like there was times where that was just always me and her. She said she was a witch and I was a witch. And so I could find that I'm still on that journey. You know, when people say, you know, well, how do you know? Well, I know I'm a witch. It's a knowing. And I had to find that knowing once I was told, because you can be told you're something and actually turn out to not be. But I knew it was, and I had a lot of different gifts that at the time I didn't realize were gifts. They were strange happenings.
When you were a child.
When I was a child, and I
Okay.
grew up not in a perfect house where we ate dinner at the right time, or having two parents that were active. I mean, at this time, both my parents were used drugs and alcohol, and it was a very disturbing childhood. So I found that my grandmother was a really important part, both of my grandmothers, and that's really why I created Bewitched.
That was like in the crazy 80s, though, too,
Yes.
correct?
I mean, my mom had some great clothes. I will throw that out to your mom if you're watching.
But you didn't live in Rhode Island all the time, too, did you?
No, I traveled, and these travels weren't more like Lifetime movie travels. We traveled because of situations my parents were in or to survive. And I can tell you, I've lived homeless, in a tent, on a bus, in a bus,
We need that bus back.
a trailer, hold on, a trailer, an apartment, a house. Am I missing anything? Did I say 10?
Would you change any of it, though? You look back at it, would you change any of it?
No.
I know you probably had some tough times with your parents, taking you here and there, but would you change any of it?
I think if I were to change anything, if I were to go back, it wouldn't be with my parents. I think I would want to ask and spend more time with my grandparents, my grandmothers, which I did spend a lot of time. But I wish I had maybe held on to that time a little bit more. If I could change anything.
The grandmother that said you were a witch, was
Yeah.
she, how did you,
That's my mom's mom.
how did you,
There you
Malachite.
go. Malachite.
How did you know that she had gifts?
Well, she never really told me like she had gifts. She said it's just we're different. And it actually one of my grandma didn't really tell me too much of hers. She just always encouraged and helped me clear through some of mine. And I really think that sometimes my grandmother didn't even understand a lot of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I didn't like articulate it correctly. And a lot of stuff I remember like at the time talking to myself or working through a lot of things internally with my friends, as people would say, they're imaginary friends. So they weren't so imaginary. I mean, I realized that later in life, but
Now, children are, because they're so innocent, they do see a lot of things. They're intuitive, aren't they?
most children will be very open and intuitive, clairvoyant, psychic until the age about 5. After 5, they'll either keep it or it will kind of erase into their short-term memory and not retain into their long-term memory.
And this sometimes will bring concern to parents because they think they are like overactive and things like that. Is that true?
In their behaviors, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. For a long time, my mom used to always get upset with me, and she would say, Roxanne, there's no way that you feel my headache. Or, she always just thought I would mirror a lot of ailments or things that I was sensing, because I don't think she understood it, because her mind was in her own world,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with her own stuff. And hindsight, being an adult now, seeing through my mom's eyes, I can have compassion and understand that. But at that time, I was just being myself and trying to express what I was feeling and sensing and not understanding. Because it wasn't always my emotions that I was sensing or seeing, it was others. But my mom didn't understand that either. And sometimes I wonder a lot of that maybe she had some of these abilities. And sometimes when you choose alcohol or drugs at a very young age, sometimes that can affect the mind.
And you still have a relationship with your mother, right?
I do. She has definitely come a long way since way back when. So
How do you see, like, your own daughter? You have a beautiful daughter,
Bella Boo.
Miss Bella, and she just is just loving this, embracing this witch life.
She really is.
We're doing crystal
Identification
studies today.
Yes. It was awesome.
And she just loves it. And she just loves it. And talk about mirroring, she loves to mirror you.
She does. And that's really important for me to see because that's kind of scary. You know, I grew up where a lot of times I felt like I was mothering my mother. So having a daughter was a big eye opener because I didn't know how to do that. I had a son and I always foresee myself having 3 boys. And so when Bella came along, I was shocked and I was kind of scared because I didn't know how to have a normal, like, how do I be a mother to a girl child? Because I always had to not be the child to a mother. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was confusing to me. I was scared. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, no matter how far you run from it.
Right.
You know, sometimes some things you're like, whoa.
Yeah, and look at Michael, your oldest son, too. He's got gifts. We all know that.
Yes.
I mean, he's gorgeous. He knows it.
Yes. The ego. We know the ego.
And we know that he knows.
Yes.
And we all know.
And we all know.
So it's all good. But he has gifts, too.
He does.
He foresees a lot, doesn't he?
He did, and he had an imaginary friend too, like I did. His was, sorry, Michael, I'm going to throw it out there. It was a dinosaur. And one time John was in the backyard at my husband's old house that he owned that his actual grandfather built, and his father and aunts and uncles grew up in Johnston. And we heard Michael in the back, and he swore. And John was like, who the heck are you talking to? And he said, like, his dinosaur friend or whatever. And John was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I said, no, don't discourage. Like, that's his person. You know, sometimes things will represent as a dinosaur, but it's not necessarily a dinosaur. It's their spirit guide just making them feel comfortable.
So you encourage children that have imaginary friends?
I do. I do encourage them. I also find that sometimes that's the mind's way of escaping the world in a time where they feel distress. You know, and Michael, you know, had John, who was, you know, new in dating his mom and knew that his mom really loved him and that this was going to be a long-term guy in his life. And he had struggles with his own biological father not being present. So, you know, it was his escape. He was able to use his creative psychic ability to be in his own world.
And then can we talk about your
But then he got mad at his dinosaur though. So, you know.
Then can we talk about Johnny, your youngest son?
Well, that's a whole other podcast.
He's like Al Capone, reincarnated.
He
is.
He is.
He is.
It's a thing.
It is. It's a thing. Go.
He came here to truly straighten my booty right out.
Do you like being here in Scituate?
I love it. I feel when I first met my husband and he's like, we're going to go to, you know, the house I grew up with in Scituate. Every time we would drive from, everyone knows I'm Route 6, where you're coming from Johnston into Scituate, if you're from around here. There was, as soon as I hit the reservoir near my old shop, over that little bridge near the fire department, yes, the fire department, I felt an instant like, like I felt like I was comfortable. And I thought maybe it's the water on each side, but it isn't. It's till this day, as soon as I cross over that, I feel like I'm home. Or whether I'm crossing over it to come to my shop.
Yeah.
There's a comfortability here in Scituate, and I find that you either have it, it's either there or it isn't.
Right.
You know, and it really finds, this is my true north. Scituate will always be, no matter what.
Oh, awesome.
So, and Bewitched will, in my shop, will forever be in a trust for future village witches, whether they're in my line or not.
Let's talk about your shop a little bit,
Okay.
because people are just hearing you talk with Ray about relationships and everything. So what's going on in that shop? What's going on in that shop? What kind of shop do you have?
Wow.
I mean, people look at it. It's a beautiful house with a beautiful porch. A lot of people mistake it for a house.
They do, and the
You
whole
know?
reason that I have it
Except for the cauldron in the front.
exactly. They're like, or they think it's an antique shop.
Right.
That's another. Even at my other shops, a lot of times it was mistaken for an antique shop, and that's just because I love old things. I like things that have memories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawn to it. So, Bewitched is is a place that is home to anybody who roams, is really what it is. And I really created, especially the living room place, which is the center of Bewitch when you walk in. Some people feel like they're walking right into my living room, especially if we're all in the living room and communicating, talking, or it's the middle of the day and there's clients talking. Another client may walk in thinking that's never been here before, thinking they walked in to my house. So it is home. It's my home. It's my soul's home. And I find I want to share that with those who need it. Sometimes even when I'm not here and the door's closed, I let people sit on the porch or sit in the back.
Do some porch hexing.
Yeah, anything, relaxing, reading. Sometimes I find girls, will sit there or even, young men and just drink their coffee, do some tarot, eat their lunch. And they'll text me and just say, I just stopped by, wanted you to know that I needed like a reboot. They feel like when they come in, a lot of times, they feel like they can just release. There's something about Bewitched itself, aside from me, has this safe current that just breathes life back into you.
And it's very light and inviting too. And it's a good vibe. And I hear that a lot of people say that too. It's not like you're walking into a dark witch's shop.
Well, I wouldn't even really call it a witch shop. It's a witch's home.
Yeah.
And I try to share as much as I can with people. And, sometimes I've found in my life and lessons I had to learn, overshared.
Yeah.
And people take. But is that going to make me stop sharing? No, which is going to,
right.
I'm just going to be a little bit more conscious and cautious about oversharing. Because, a lot of times we tend to do that in our life. Sometimes we want to just share so much love and so much giving that sometimes we don't see the intentions of others.
But you're a very giving person. You'll drop anything that you're doing to help somebody out right away.
Absolutely.
All the time. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. In the middle of the night. Yeah, it gets a little...
And it does get taxing on my family too, so to share that piece of it, my family, my husband, my kids, my animals, they're affected by what I do, not always in a positive way.
Right.
So a lot of times, I will have to stop or say I get a text in the middle of the night or, someone's in a situation, I have to take the call. I have to be there for someone to kind of walk them off the edge or help them. It's just a few seconds. I tell my family, it's just a few seconds that it's going to change someone's life. Just a few seconds.
It does. And
but
it does too.
Sometimes I have to shut it off too, so I can be present when I'm with my family.
I'm thinking, when do you ever shut it off? You really don't.
No.
Your mind's going all the time. That's the thing too. Your mind is constantly going. Seeing dead people, hearing messages.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a real lot. I mean, does your head just go woof, woof, woof?
I remember one time, this was like probably about a week or so ago, I was on the phone with John and just asking how his day was at the fire department. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like sparkles everywhere. Like I started seeing like all kinds of orbs and things going on in the living room. And he goes, I told you to sage it. I told you, Claire, there was stuff going on. The lights were flickering the other day. He's like, stop bringing this stuff home with you. I'm like, okay, just so everyone out there knows, it's around us all the time. Just more people can sense it and feel it and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I remember one time, this was before COVID, I saw a family, a wife, they were deceased, and from another time period. A wife, husband, a daughter, and a son, and they were near not my front door, but my side door with the little porch, inside in the walk area, and I saw them, and I'm just looking at them, and they looked like they were blown up or some kind of bombing or something went on, and they didn't know where they were, and they ended up being in my house.
Really?
Yeah, and I had to communicate, and they spoke French, so telepathically I was able to understand what they were saying, but they were didn't understand why they looped into my house in this present time. So, and that goes into what some people call the paranormal or one thing, because they were definitely from the 1940s, I mean, the closed period. So, you come home after a long day of doing reading stuff and pop, there's a whole French family right at the door.
It's not your typical job.
No, and
It's not your typical job.
it isn't, and I love it. I love what I do. I'm very blessed to do what I do and love what I do. And it really all started from my grandmother just throwing that word around.
Yeah, but you do a lot more in the store too. I mean, not just the psychic readings, and you also do Reiki, and you teach Reiki.
I do. And I help children. And when I say children, God view us all as children, whether we're 80 or 2 or 5. So find their true path, their true destiny. And a lot of times I have children that come in, actual youths, that can't identify.
Did you just say youths?
I said youth. Yes. I'm
My
from
cousin
Rhode Island.
Benny.
Oh my
You
God.
just said
No, you
youths.
didn't.
You did.
I am married to an Italian.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm going to come back from that now. So, young individuals.
The youths, yep.
And just really kind of helping them find their way. A lot of times they have self-identification issues or not feeling like they're in the same school of fish as others, trying to fit in. And I find that our society is not helping our youths. So.
No, there's such a high rate of suicide, and you don't even hear in these small towns. You don't hear anything about it, but somewhere down the line, you hear, "Oh, so and so committed suicide." It's like, oh my God, he didn't even graduate.
So suicide.
Oh.
I've been doing I wouldn't say research, but it kind of is because I work with both sides, our living and our deceased. So I have found that suicide starts from, I'm going to get into this a little bit, being abandoned, being a child of abandonment. And what happens is you believe you are an abandoned soul. So therefore, other things, just like we have our loved ones, we have many different energies that are not always of the light.
You say a child of abandonment. What does that mean? Like their
Child-
parents are divorced, or
Yeah, many different things could be abandonment. It's either from a mother or father, typically 99% of the time, where they feel they were emotionally or physically or both.
oh, emotionally abandoned. Okay,
Mhm.
so they could still be together and look like it's the happy household,
Mm-hmm.
but it's emotional
Yep.
abandonment.
Because
you know?
sometimes you'll see that in families that you think, oh, they're like the
It's a perfect
Rockefellers or
family.
something.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a perfect
Yeah,
family.
it's a perfect
This-
family. And
Right.
really,
With which they had good communication too, or you thought they did.
or they had a child that they just didn't understand. As parents, I'm a mother of 3 kids, and sometimes I find it hard to understand. They came in with their own souls and their own ideas, and I remember Johnny at 2 years old told me I wasn't his mother, like God was his mother and father. So how dare I tell him anything? So he's kind of right, but
yeah.
like he did pick me.
Yeah.
Which he did say he was going to go back up and change his selection a few times. It's this close on the mother's gift of like getting something for Christmas, not
That's
this
right.
year, last year.
That's right. Yeah.
And he stole my ring out of my jewelry box and wrapped it and gave it to me
He knew you'd love it.
because he knew I loved it. So we all have those children that we just need to embrace and allow them to self-express what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it may seem weird or inappropriate the way they're talking, sometimes it's getting to the seed of it. And they come in this life with a past life. We're all reincarnated souls.
And that's what your spell work sessions are all about too, is like discussing things with a person on one-on-one. Correct?
So you won't typically find too many spell works in the store. You may find some herbal mixes that like you and Bella and I have made, with the candles, and it's all herbs to help with love. But
you won't find here's a rabbit's ear and a toad's eyeball and things
no,
like that.
no.
Yeah.
But if you really want to work with someone and work with the energy you need to work with them one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And I work really well with scents. That's kind of my specialty,
Mm-hmm.
is blending oils and herbs to make a concoction that works for you, for your higher self. You know, I have had people come in and say, well, I'd like to do something to my ex-boyfriend because he made me feel
Oh,
a
yeah.
certain way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're like, do you do that kind of work? And I said, I don't do that kind of work, but I do. And I'm going to explain to you how I do this work. I want you to come in and I want you to express to me your feelings of why you feel you want to hex your boyfriend.
Right.
And really what it comes around to is it had nothing to do with him. It had to do with the fact that she gave up halfway through the relationship and just thought he was going to stay. So we work on her self-love, her self-confidence, and her decision-making. And that's what we make something. Because that's the only thing you're going to really change.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has their own free will. It's very similar to how people pray. Prayer is a beautiful form. It's an energy you send out. And that works too. But also when you scream and yell and say bad things about people, that's a curse. You don't have to be a witch to do that.
Right. I think we do spells every day.
We do.
We do spells every day.
It's just another form of a written word.
Right. Because, like I said, you have these new witches coming in and they want to have a spell book.
Yes.
They're looking for cardamom. They're looking for cinnamon sticks. They're looking for rabbit's fur. It's like, don't go in the curiosity
Don't
cabinet.
go in the curiosity.
Don't end up in the curiosity
Exactly,
cabinet. That's all.
exactly.
We get the key. But yeah, I mean, there's so many books and everything on the internet too. How to be a witch, witchy witch.
Well,
Witch,
witches
witch, witch.
become.
What's your definition of a witch?
This
Just
can
give
be-
me a one sentence definition of a witch. What's
Well,
a
I'm
witch?
going to go back to when my grandmother said it was a witch.
Okay.
So I didn't really feel like I identified with the witch when I started doing all the research on them because they were scary. They were green faced. You had to wear black.
Devil worshippers.
Devil worshippers. None of those things in which I do. I do love the color black, but I love color. I love
Mhm.
all the colors of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Rainbow Bright as a kid, you know?
Yeah, you would.
So my hair's kind of like hers today. So it was hard because it said you wear black, you wear a black pointy hat, you have a broom, you have a black cat, you have a spell book, and you're a witch. Well, at least you look the part
Mm-hmm.
of what they say,
Mm-hmm.
a witch. Because that's a stereotype in a way. I find even today, it's still a self-discovery. So when people say, you know, how did you know? Well, there is a knowing. And as I got older, I realized there are natural-born witches. And then there are people who choose a witch's path. But that's a big subject for us to discuss tonight. And I will definitely go like more into that. But I will say,
Absolutely.
if you feel that you are a witch, don't go online and say, they have these like little memes where it says, if you like stones and you like herbs and you like oils,
If you like the woods,
if you like the woods, if you
Right.
like wearing the color black, then you're a witch.
you're right. Right.
Again, that has nothing to do, that's nature. And I know, you know, Wicca is a natural, is a nature-based religion, but all religions are based in our stories that came before us and part of our world and our universe.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no difference. It's just the way in which you practice,
The way witch you practice.
in which way you
Right.
practice. Yeah.
Right.
That was a little bit of a tongue twister.
Right. That's true.
You know? So I always say if you're trying to find the witch in you, you have to find out who you are,
It all comes back to
yourself.
spring cleaning and everything else and figuring out who you are.
Yeah, self-evaluation.
Self-evaluation.
I will tell you, at different events and public places that I've been, a natural-born witch senses another natural-born witch.
Mm,
And majority of them don't even know it, just like I didn't.
right.
They just know there's an instinct,
Energy.
there's an
Yeah.
energy about it.
Absolutely.
You could sense them out.
Yeah.
You can.
And they
Even-
could
it's
have-
like it's like
They
it's
can
an
have a
animal
Chanel.
instinct.
They can have a Chanel suit on,
Exactly.
and the other one has pentagrams all over them, and they're not.
Right.
But the Chanel suit lady is there's something about them.
Right,
There's something about them. Not the way they hold themselves, it's just this energy.
right.
The auras.
The auras of it.
The auras of it.
So there's many different, you know, it's just so hard because it's so, it makes it easy in a way to talk about this because it is popular. But it also,
Which
again,
is good in a way though.
it is, but I also feel like it's still putting us back into, we're creating another history that is still, I feel, sometimes not progressed. I feel like sometimes it's still going backwards.
I mean, you go to Salem around October and you see all these people
Well-
dressed up as witches with green face.
Well, it's commercialized. I mean, one of my
Yeah.
teachers that I respect very, very much is Lori Cabot, and she's from Salem, but she wasn't always from Salem. And she really started, you know, an authentic witch trend. You know, she was a natural born witch, and she had to find her way.
She had a tough time too doing that.
She did.
It wasn't easy for her.
No, because choosing a life that's different and a little bit in her time. I mean, she just turned 91.
Yeah.
She came into a time that was really tough.
Yeah.
Before we were even allowed to, you know.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, do the math on that.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
So it wasn't until the 70s that, you know, we finally got the rights to worship. That Wiccan was considered a religion that was protected by the government.
Still to this day, if somebody sees a pentagram, they get crazy. They're like devil
Because-
worshippers.
Well, we also deal with media. We deal with movies. People are not educated. And what I mean by educated, I don't mean that you didn't go to a certain college or, you know, things like that. I mean, you just didn't explore. If someone
You
said,
just didn't know.
well, if someone said to me, "Oh, that you know that means the worship of the devil," well, you know, for me, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna research it. What is this symbol?
Hmm.
What does it mean? Where does it belong? I mean, I researched the Bible.
Well, the Jewish star is very similar to it.
Yes, there's stars. The star is the oldest symbol that we know of in mankind. You'll find it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We are made of star matter. Scientifically proven, we are made of star matter. And it takes 3 women to make 1 child.
Wow.
Because you have your grandmother's eggs. And if you had a daughter, she'd have your mother's eggs. Crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot to think about.
It's a lot. So I
It
always
is.
say if you're out there and you're curious about any path, and especially a witch path, there's not one way. Find out who you are. Do research. You know, I had a woman in who is a pagan, but she was raised Catholic, and you know, a lot of people were saying she's a hypocrite because, you know, she still valued the story and the sacrifice of Jesus and the story she was raised with.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt like she had to pick. Why does she have to pick?
Really? Why?
She doesn't. If she feels a love for a specific person who walked this earth and healed people and helped people, whatever the version of it is that feels right to her in her heart, why can't she carry that with her when she does her earth-based religion? I don't see a problem with that. But, you know, some people, even in the witch world, may see a problem with that. I mean, I've been told, how can you talk about Mary, Joseph, or anybody else, and then, you know, talk about other gods and goddess from Celtic or Scottish, or everyone has a story. Everyone has gods and goddesses,
Right.
and they're all very real, and they all have lessons in them.
So, getting back to the definition. What's your definition of a witch? 1 sentence. You're going to wrap this up in 1 sentence. You can do more podcasts on it, but
I mean, typically I've always seen it in women, but a witch, a natural born witch, can be a male also.
mm-hmm.
I find it someone who is born with the gifts of healing and helping people
Mm-hmm.
from a psychic standpoint, and from the gifts of being able to mix different things in earth medicines. It's a higher understanding. It's just a knowing. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. It's a knowing. and then you have to find your way. You have to re-teach your new self from a past life all that information, and how are you going to utilize it? Some people go and become a nurse. Some people become a doctor. Some people are firefighters. They find some way to help people, just like you. You were always in the medical field, helping. Then you went to the zoo, helping living plants and animals. And now you're still helping people.
My favorite plants are the poisonous ones.
Right? Exactly.
Because they're the most beautiful,
They
right?
are, and they always
really
say
are.
the most beautiful plants are the ones that are the most deadly.
Mm.
But should we fear them?
No.
No, just like people and witches, we shouldn't fear them. We should get to know them.
Right.
And some things some people have different intentions than others, and you have to find out. Just don't get pricked. Don't blow that. No kidding. We have to have some humor here.
Oh my God. Well then, babe, I think it's gonna be a wrap for the night, don't you think?
I think so, and we'll do more self-exploring of the witch and the witch keeper, and we will do it on Witchy Wednesdays, and
Get a
I'm
little
excited
crazy
to
too.
give you guys a little information on me.
I gotta
Good.
stop slumping.
So there we go. Well, thank you so much. Until next time, be the light the world sees in its darkest moments.
And if you can't do that, find a flashlight.
And Witch Mafia.
That's right.